Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
This was the fog of war. You know, my own assessment careened from, the video had something to do with it. The video had nothing to do with it. It may have affected some people. It didn't affect other people. And I think the conclusion to draw, because we were not just monitoring what was happening in Benghazi once it began to unfold, but remember we had a very dangerous assault on our embassy in Cairo that same day, which was clearly linked to that video. So I was trying to make sense of it. And, I think that the investigations that have been carried out basically conclude we can't say that everybody was influenced and we can't say everybody wasn't, but what the intelligence community said was spontaneous protests, and that is what at the time they thought.
All right, folks, that's Hillary. She's still claiming that some people attacked the embassy in Benghazi because of the video. That's what she's still claiming. Or we can't be sure they didn't. Ken Timmerman is here, investigative reporter and author of a great book called Dark Forces, The Truth About What Happened in Benghazi. Ken, welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, so the fog of war, she went back and forth between the video, not the video, and we can't say for sure now even that some people weren't influenced by the video. What do you make of that?
Well, you've got three separate stories right there. It's really extraordinary. How do you know if Hillary Clinton is lying? Because her lips are moving. It's extraordinary. The embassy in Cairo was indeed under attack. They had announced the attack 2 days earlier. It was a series of jihadi groups. It was the son of the blind sheikh who's in prison in the United States, who announced they were going to burn down, kidnap, or kill everybody in the embassy in Cairo. That was also a terrorist attack. In Benghazi, they had so many warnings, and there was no intelligence that night about a demonstration. I recount in Dark Forces in really some detail, Steve, how the attack unfolded that night. At 9:41 p.m., there was nobody in front of the embassy. At 9:42 p.m., they blew open the gates, they appeared suddenly with Kalashnikovs, and a couple of minutes later with bazookas. So, there was never any intimation, no information that it was a protest. It was an attack from the very start, and they knew it.
Where do you believe, after your investigation, that the video story came up? Who came up with it?
Well, that's real interesting, and I think that's one of the things that Trey Gowdy has got to uncover in his select committee. We need to get the emails, the internal exchanges in Hillary Clinton's office. Here's what we do know. We know that Hillary Clinton and President Obama had a phone call at 10 o'clock at night, Washington time. 8 minutes later, Mrs. Clinton puts out a statement from the State Department blaming it on the video.
And let me interrupt. According to another new book, that was at the insistence of the president.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe, because you don't change your story in a couple of minutes' time and then release an official statement from the United States Department of State. I think that call at 10 p.m. between Obama and Hillary Clinton was really, they were getting their ducks in a row. She had pretty much already decided what she was going to say and was clearing it with the president.
All right, so you believe that she came up with it. You call Benghazi the deepest and darkest and the dirtiest political scandal of recent American history. Explain.
Well, remember, Iran-Contra, nobody died. There were arms sales to Iran. There were hostages in Lebanon. But in the end, the Reagan administration got those hostages out, and no Americans were killed. Watergate, there was nobody who died there. Here, 4 Americans died. And as I say in Dark Forces, they died unnecessarily. Their deaths could have been prevented. First, they could have been prevented in Benghazi itself with the people who were on the ground. I tell the story of Ty Woods, the U.S. Navy SEAL, who was literally 5 minutes away from the diplomatic compound. He got notice over a VHS radio from the diplomatic security people that were guarding Ambassador Chris Stevens and the other folks at the consular building. He was ready to go. He got 6 people together. They loaded their weapons into up-armored SUVs, and they were ready to charge out the door within 2 to 5 minutes. He was told 3 times to stand down, or they say hold in place, by his CIA chief of boss. By the time he finally broke those orders and went, against the orders of the CIA chief. He didn't get there until
Right.
45 minutes later. It was too late.
Ken, what have you found out about how the ambassador died? I mean, we have seen the pictures, although they disappeared from public view, but there were pictures, and I think it was CNN who not only found the ambassador's diary laying around, that's how good our investigation was, but they also took pictures, if I'm not mistaken, it was them, of the bloody handprints in the living quarters by the toilet. You hear all kinds of rumors. What have you found out?
Look, I think that the U.S. government knows the truth about how he died, and it's suspicious to me that they've never released his autopsy. In fact, I was told they never even did an autopsy. So that to me is a bit suspicious. But look, this said, the video that we see of him being brought out of the villa that night, you look at those guys very carefully, and I've done this. They were not the jihadis who attacked. These were kids, basically, young men who were in the neighborhood. They were in designer jeans. They were what I call war tourists. And according to the accounts that we have seen from the doctor, for example, in the hospital, he had not been bloodied before he was brought in there. He died of smoke inhalation.
He died of smoke inhalation. That's what you believe. Okay, fair enough. In the minute we have left, well, not fair to ask you this. What were we doing there in the first place? You know, Hillary says we have to be in dangerous places. Well, they need to be protected. But why were we there? Was this an arms deal thing with transferring these arms to Syria from Libya? Is that what it was all about?
Absolutely, and that's why they had to cover it up. First, the CIA was bringing weapons into Libya at the very beginning of the Civil War. I tell that story in great detail in Dark Forces. It's pretty astonishing because it involves Stinger missiles. And later, they're taking weapons out of Benghazi to get them to Syria. They take them by boat up to Turkey, and they also take them out, especially the surface-to-air missiles, they take them out over land into Niger in Africa and out through Suez and elsewhere. One of them was used to shoot down a U.S. helicopter in Afghanistan in July 2012. That's where the scandal really began, and that's why they had to cover up what was going on in Afghanistan.
All right. Well, folks, read all about it in Dark Forces, The Truth About What Happened in Benghazi by investigative reporter and executive director of the Foundation for Democracy in Iran, Ken Timmerman. Ken, always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure.
All right. Hey, we need to hear also more about what Ken was just talking about, why we were there in the first place, what was going on, what covert actions were taking place. We're coming back with more of me. Don't go away.